Pardon me? Jeez, pardon me. Hello. Just waiting for people to turn up. So I haven't done a live since, I think, Thursday. I think I'm down to about 2 a week right now. I used to do 7 lives a week. I just haven't had time lately. Okay. Alrighty. Just waiting for everyone to turn up before I get going. I'm on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. Whenever I'm doing lives, I'm on Facebook YouTube the whole time. And then I bounce from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. And because all my lives are saved on YouTube. A little bit chilly today. Okay. It's really slow to get going. Oh, it's just 4:30 now. Okay. Wow, it's really slow to get going. Wonder why that is. Interesting. Pardon me? Why is it so slow to get going? Usually I've got, I'd say about 100 people by now, and I don't know what's going on. I can never figure out what's going on. Maybe it's because I don't do lives as often. I used to do lives every single day. I just don't have time anymore. Maybe that's why. Anyway, okay. Now, I've got Jasmine on YouTube asks, I am so glad you're life. Oh, you said life. I'm glad I'm a life too. I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong because my 2-year-old keeps getting an attitude where she says something along the lines of "Don't touch me" or "That's my toy." Yeah, she's just testing you. She's only 2. 2-year-olds are just going to try one thing after the other. They're going to go through stage after stage after stage. Yeah, just ignore what you don't like with toddlers, basically, or you use consistent corrective action. But that's an attitude kind of thing. So yeah, you just ignore that stuff. They'll just move on. They'll move on to what does get them attention. That's the way toddlers operate. She says, "Don't touch me." Yeah, just ignore it. She's just testing you. Okay. Yeah, it's really slow right now. I wonder why that is. I can never figure stuff out. Anyway, yeah, sorry I'm not on here every day like I used to be. I just literally don't have time anymore. Because I used to do these, I think for almost 2 years. About 2 years I was on here every day doing lives. And yeah, lately I just haven't had the time. So I do work 7 days a week. So it's not like I'm not working. Oh my goodness, what's going on here? Okay. Okay, we've got a few people here, so I guess we can get going. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you go on the link above, you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old, or you can look into coaching. I don't always have time to take new clients on anymore. You'd have to look into it and then send me an email. Tell me the ages of your kids and what you want help with. Okay. Do you have any pointers on how to help my daughter have more confidence? I don't know how old she is. It makes a big difference. Very different advice for a 3-year-old than it is for a 16-year-old. So you have to include the ages in here. Okay. You've helped me so much with your videos. Well, thanks so much for your support. I'm on here a lot. Oh, she's 8. Confidence with 8-year-old. Yeah, I don't know what you mean. It's confidence in sports, confidence socially, just to try things. Confidence is something that comes through practice, not through being told you're great, by the way. You got to get her out there, get her trying as many different things as possible. Also, does she see you talking to anybody? My mother, I always had a lot of confidence. My mother was very social. I was very social. My kids are pretty good at talking to just about anybody. So yeah, what are you like? Are you out there? Are you social? What do your kids see? Because they tend to pick up those traits. I remember someone commented once, I think I was about 14 or 15, and it was some event, and it was people who didn't really know me. And they said to my mom, they said, gee, she can talk to anybody, like adults, kids, whatever. And I remember my mom saying, well, yeah, like who can't? Like, I mean, it's just sort of taken for granted that we can talk to anybody. So yeah, I was watching my mom and I learned from my mom. My kids were watching me and they learned from me. So set an example. A lot of social skills are picked up from the parents. How to teach my 5-year-old he can't win every time. He's a sore loser. Being a sore loser is a learned trait. It's a learned behavior. It means that you focus more on the win rather than how they play. My mom always was so proud of my brother and I. She always said, you're such good sports. I heard this my whole life and I couldn't figure out what the heck that meant and why it was such a big deal. She was very proud of the fact that we played hard. We play to win, but we don't care if we win. There's a big difference. She always said it's better to play. She said, I'd rather lose and play well than win and through luck. So she always focused on the playing and the trying, but never about the winning. So yeah, it's a learned behavior. How do you help an 8-year-old who refuses to listen to rules, always runs out of the house, especially at 7 a.m. on weekends to knock on friends' doors? Okay, that's just a sign that you're not a leader. Work on your leadership skills. You might want to check out my boot camp course. That's all about you and your leadership. When you're a leader, they just don't do stuff like that. Yeah, they just don't. So work on your leadership skills. Their behavior between the ages of 3 and 12 years old, their behavior is a direct result of your parenting. And it's like 100% a direct result of your parenting. 3 to 12. Under 3, they're crazy. 13 and up, they get a little bit more of their own mind. But they still are, if they respect you, they still kind of never go crazy anyway. I'm new here, haven't had a chance to go through all your videos. I have a 4-year-old who is the youngest of 4, born during COVID. Oh, she's extremely mean to her sisters. She's really bad for tantrums and hitting. I've tried timeouts. Oh, I hate timeout. Can't stand it. And spanking. You don't need to do that when you know what else to do. I feel like I'm hitting a brick wall. You can check out my behavior board. That's a good place to start. It's completely free. If you want to go to the next level, check out my boot camp course. It's all about your leadership. That's a direct result of your parenting. Most things are. So yeah, once you're a leader, they respect you and they want to please you. It's a natural instinct for a child to want, need, and crave a leader. If you're not a leader for your child, they're going to go out in the world very vulnerable. They're going to be very vulnerable to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. You get the idea. They need, crave, and want a leader. So yeah. Like if you're a leader, your child would be embarrassed to be mean to other people because they'd have to look at you and that, you know what I mean? Like yeah. How to respond when preschool teacher calls and asks me to speak with my 5-year-old on the phone about hitting and not listening. Yeah, that just means your 5-year-old's really out of control and they can't handle them. Again, check out the boot camp course. It's all about you. When you're a leader at home, they're really good when they're out too. So yeah, that just means they can't handle them. Preschool teacher. Potentially they could get kicked out of preschool if they're that, difficult to handle. They can't, the reason is that when they're hurting other children, could you imagine if you were the parent of one of those other children who turned up with a bruise every time they went to school? See what I mean? That's kind of a big deal. So it's kind of a sign that you better, up your parenting leadership to get that taken care of. So yeah, it's all about you. I can't tell you how to deal with your hitter until you're a leader. The behavior board, you could even just go no hitting on the behavior board. That's completely free. Check out the link above. The behavior board. It teaches you how to set down rules and consequences. The next level is the boot camp course, teaches you how to set yourself up as a leader. The behavior board's a good place to start, and it's completely free. I'm working on being a leader. Good for you, Catherine. Right now, I'm battling my 3-year-old tantrums. When she's told no about anything, it lasts like 45 minutes. Okay, you don't use distraction. That could be why it's lasting so long. She's waiting for you to distract her because no one distracts with broccoli. You always distract with something fun, right? So yeah, you don't distract a 4-year-old or a 3-year-old. You do under 16 months, you do use distraction for a tantrum, but not over that age. They've got to learn how to get themselves out of the tantrum. But yeah, you're just there. Should I tell them? What story should I tell? I'll tell the mall story. My son was, he was 3 because he was 3. That's why I'll tell the story. And it was he had tantrums. They're born to have them or they never have them. It's just the way they are. Like my son had them. My daughter never did. And I never had one. So you're just born to have tantrums. Anyway, we were at the mall and this was his second to last tantrum. And I don't even know why he had it. I hadn't said no to anything. We weren't going anywhere he did or didn't want to go. You know, who knows? Anyway, so he decided to have a tantrum. So what I did was I pulled him off to the side because there were stairs right there. And then, and it was a very loud, busy mall, so he wasn't disturbing anybody. And it wasn't a super loud tantrum, but it was a tantrum. Anyway, so while he's having his tantrum, I pulled out my nail file and I'm just standing there like that. He was used to this. This is what I did. I'm filing my nails. I'm just waiting. You look like you're waiting for a bus. So I'm just waiting for him to stop. Well, I guess I was calling attention to myself because I've got this kid screaming and I'm just filing my nails like this. So all these moms kept stopping me and they are coming up to talk to me. And the young ones kept saying stuff like this. You should give him a hug, talk about his feelings. I'm like, oh, good, keep moving, keep moving. They didn't know what they were talking about. And but the grandmothers and the mothers with older kids kept coming over saying, good on you, you know what you're doing. I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Anyway, eventually he stopped. And it didn't last that long because he was used to me by now. He knew this was never going to get any attention. So finally he stopped his tantrum. So I said to him, oh, y'all done? Okay, let's go. Off we went. And that was the end of it. He only had one more tantrum after that. Yeah, don't feed a tantrum. Any attention is tantrum food. It's like you're fertilizing it when you give them attention. A 5-year-old always has tantrums when you're leaving in the house, especially when you're going somewhere exciting. That's very unusual that they have a tantrum when they're going somewhere fun. But you can't avoid. What you're saying to me is how do I give him? How do I give in to everything he wants before? Like it just doesn't make any sense. You can't avoid a tantrum. It's impossible. You can't avoid what they're going to do anyways. Yeah, you don't avoid. Everyone wants to avoid the scenes. The scenes are the lessons. It's how you react to the scene is the lesson. So yeah, don't try and avoid the scenes. Everyone wants to, how do we avoid a tantrum? You don't, let them have it. Behind every scene, fit, meltdown, or tantrum is a lesson. So because it's how you deal with it, you don't give it any attention. So yeah, don't try and avoid this stuff. Everyone wants to avoid all this stuff. You want to avoid a lesson is what you're saying. You don't avoid that. Let them have it. Autism. Okay, I only discuss autism during coaching. That's you'd have to look into coaching in the link above. That's more of a specialty. Can you talk about what being a leader means? What are the traits of a leader parent? That is my pool story. I've told it thousands of times. I don't think I've got too many more tells in me. I've told it so many times. The pool story is all about how you deal with bad behavior, then you focus on the good kid. Look it up. It's a video called Example of Leadership Parenting. I don't know where it is. I don't do my social media. My daughter handles all that. But I know on Instagram and TikTok, it is the very first video. It's called Example of Leadership Parenting, and it is the pool story. It's all about, focusing on the good kid, but you don't ignore bad behavior. So everyone wants to focus on the bad behavior. Where you put your focus, where you put your energy is what grows. And you don't want the bad behavior to become their identity. That's why you say, hey, that was bad. Here's a consequence. Now, you want to read a book? You flip it like that. So you don't ignore bad behavior, but you don't focus on it. I just was talking to a client this morning, and I said, I wrote it down. I thought it was such a good point. Where did I put it? No, I wrote it down so I would have no problem finding it, and now I can't find it. Okay. It's kind of off topic. Okay, I've got it written down. Where the heck did I put that? Sugar. Okay. This is kind of off topic, but I'm going to read it out anyway. It's a really good point. It's something I came up with. Just the way I worded it was kind of a good way of wording it. And I said, never leverage the good times to talk about the bad times. So what I mean by that is when let's say that your kid does something bad, okay? There's a consequence. That's it. The end. As far as I'm concerned, the end. Here's what parents do. Then they forget all about it. Then you go out and have fun with your kids and you're connecting and having fun. You leverage that fun to discuss the bad thing they did earlier. You seem to want to lecture them about it. Huge mistake. Huge mistake. There's no need to go on about the bad thing they did. It's already been dealt with. But parents seem to want to go like this and rub it in, salt in the wound. They seem to want to talk about the bad stuff, especially if you're having fun with your kid. They're never going to trust you. Every time you say you want to have fun with them, they're not going to trust you. They think you're just buttering them up so you can talk about all the bad things they did. So don't leverage the good times to discuss the bad times. A lot of parents see that as their opening. Okay, now let's discuss what you did earlier. That's mean. It's really mean. Why the heck didn't I write that down? Anyway, I'm going to write it down now so I don't forget. Never leverage the good times to talk about the bad times. Okay. Yeah, a lot of parents make that mistake. I see it all the time. All the time. Well, when do we discuss their bad behavior? Do you need to? Why do you? Well, I know you want to. You kind of want to rub it in, don't you? It's for you. Why do you need to discuss their bad behavior? You deal with it. Hey, that was bad. Here's the consequence. Okay, do you want to go to the park? That's how it goes. You deal with it. There's a consequence for bad behavior, but then you let it go. Why do you need to keep going on about it? Where you put your focus, where you put your energy is what grows. 99% of parenting is about connecting with them and bonding with them. It's not about discipline. Discipline is what all parents ask me about on these lives. It's the focus of these lives because you kind of control the lives more. I'm trying to take a bit more control of them now and focus more on the positive stuff rather than the negative, because every parent wants to know how to discipline their kid. But basically, most times when parents ask me, how do I discipline them? It just means you're not a leader. Set yourself up as a leader, and they just don't act like that. Part of leadership is discipline, but you gotta mix it up with the bonding with them and connecting with them. That's more important than the discipline. So check out my behavior board's completely free, and it is all about connecting with them too. You'll see if you look it up. It's completely free. You can go to the boot camp course too. That's a 5-week course, teaches you how to get respect in 5 weeks by setting yourself up as a leader. That's what it's all about. Their behavior between 3 and 12 years old is 100% a direct result of your parenting. So rather than blaming them for how they're acting, you say, what am I doing wrong here? What am I missing? Parents always want to blame their kids for the bad behavior. It's just a reflection of your parenting. That's all it is. Some parents don't like me when I say that, but I don't care. It's the truth. Their behavior is a direct result of your parenting. Isn't that good news though? It means you can help it. You can fix it. If it's a direct result of your parenting, that means you can fix it. Set yourself up as a leader. I want you to have fun with your kids. I was best friends with my kids. We had a blast. Parenting was the most fun I ever had. I sorted out all that leadership stuff, and also I was very accountable. If I messed up, boy, my kids loved it. You should have seen them. If I messed up, they'd look at each other like this. And I'm like, oh, shoot, what do you want? Because I knew I was going to have to make amends. If I messed up, I was accountable. So you're not a dictator. You're not an authority. You're a leader, right? Leaders lead. You lead by example. You show them what it looks like to be accountable. If you mess up, there's a consequence. You make it up to people. You make amends. They're not listening to you. They're watching you. So if you're not accountable, are they going to be accountable? No. Why would they be? Doesn't make any sense. They might be when they're younger. The authority style can work when they're younger, but they will rebel in the teen years if you're not accountable also. What are your thoughts on only kids? I was kind of an only child in that my brother's so much older than me. So he's like 16 years older than me. So he wasn't fighting me for my Barbies. Like I never had to share anything and vice versa. So yeah, I didn't have a problem. There were times it would have been nice to have had someone my own age. But then I also learned how to, like, being around adults was my comfort zone. So, and plus all my cousins were older. I came along later in life. I was adopted and came along quite a bit later. So, but yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought it was good. The only negative I ever saw with being an only child really is, God, what if something ever happened to that kid, those poor parents? I knew someone, I won't go on about it, but I knew someone who just had one child and that child passed away. And I thought, God, it would have been nice if they had another one. You can't make up for it, but that's the only thing I remember thinking, oh my God, it's too bad because they're not parents anymore. So yeah, it's the only negative I can really think of. Sounds kind of crazy, but that always stuck in my mind. I thought, it can't make up for it, but it would have helped. Okay. This is a good question. It's from Haley. Oops. Okay. We have a good toy rotation, but a couple of bins, potato head pieces, cars, and trucks, right? So when you got like one toy that is lots of little pieces, basically, like Lego, when told to clean up, he dumped the potato head pieces, creating a bigger mess. Do I address the direct disobedience? Oh, you never put the age. I don't know how old he is. It's different answer. Let's say he's 5, okay? So yeah, he can dump out all that stuff, but it has to be on a blanket or something, so you can just pick it up and tip it into something. Or what you can do is, if they're even younger and they don't understand that, just take not all the pieces out, but you can divide that toy up, like Lego up, into like 6 different little buckets, and they only get one bucket as one toy, so they don't have as much of it at any given time. Yeah. Mr. Potato Head. Geez, my kids never had that. I had it. I loved Mr. Potato Head. I only like toys where I could build something, like where you started with nothing and turned it into something. Is deliberately disobeying too broad to put on the behavior board? Well, yeah, of course it is. What you should be writing down is tell your parents to be better leaders, because if they're deliberately disobeying, it's a weakness in you, not them. It means you're not a leader. So everyone wants to blame their kids for their behavior. It's never them, it's you. If they're deliberately misbehaving, they're screaming for leadership. So work on yourself, work on your leadership skills, and that doesn't happen. So it's like saying be a good kid, and you should write down be a leader as your role. That's more important. Be a leader. Okay, we are using the behavior board, and my husband's consequences. We have to play a 5-minute game of hide and seek, right? The whole family are loving it. Yeah, it's about connecting, right? So if the parents mess up, they have to play with the kids for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever. So it's about connecting. Yeah. I've just had, it's only Tuesday. I have had so far, I would say, one of the best 2 days that I've had in a while. It's just parents doing well, parents doing well, parents doing well. You know, it can go the other way too, but it's been really, really good. So it's very rewarding for me. And but it really is just about being calm and consistent throughout this process. So it's never about the kids. It's the parents who understand, oh, it is all about me. Oh, it's all about me. I have to fix myself. Yeah, we're not fixing kids here. We're teaching parents. It's the parents who get that. They do the best. They get the best results. You got to put the ages when you're asking questions. I can't answer them without an age. What's the best first step to become a leader? Get the behavior board. If they're 3 and over, get the behavior board. Your leadership skills don't really kick in till then. You're sort of doing it by using, with toddlers, it's consistent corrective actions. So they learn through repetition over and over and over again. So by the, maybe by the 50th time you've done the same consistent corrective action, maybe they'll learn. But yeah, about 3 is when it kicks in. 3 years old is when they can stop and think before they act. The frontal lobe is starting to develop. That's the sense of reasoning. But before that, the impulse control just isn't there under the age of 3. Please answer my question. That wasn't a question. Okay. I simply cannot afford to hire you, yet I have taken custody of my nephew until his mother gets better. Why did this pop up? All my information just popped up here. My mailing, actually, if you mail anything to me, I haven't looked in my mailbox. I look at it once a year in my PO box. I just don't have a company where I have physical stuff, but it just reminds me every so often I should probably look in my PO box. The reason I never look at it, I'm in there all the time. The reason I never look at it is because I never have the key with me. I walk everywhere, so I like to carry minimal stuff. So just reminded me I probably should look at my PO. I literally look at it maybe once a year. Okay, my 9-year-old. Okay, here we go. 9-year-old comes home so whiny after school. How can I help her get into a better mood? You can't help someone get into a better mood. You're trying to micromanage a child. You don't do that. You just go, if they're in a whiny mood, don't feed it. Don't say, well, you should cheer up. You should just let them go. Just talk about other stuff. Or if they're really whiny, no, leave me alone. Then leave them alone. Yeah, they'll eventually learn. They got to get controlled. They're probably just detoxing from school emotionally, right? It's a lot. They have to control themselves all day long. Okay, I emailed you, copy and pasted. Well, I do check my emails once a day, so I'll look at it. Sometimes it seems longer because I'll check them in the morning one day and then I won't check them till night the next day. So, but yeah, I do go through my emails every day. Doesn't mean I answer them all, but it means I do go through and see what's there. Because my clients, I always answer theirs first. Okay, how do I teach a lesson to my 8-year-old daughter when a parent in the neighborhood is making false claims about my daughter and threaten my daughter to never play with her kids anymore if she does this? Mom said she'll call the police. I don't know what's going on there. You're asking me to figure out that drama? I don't know. I haven't got a clue. Haven't got a clue. Okay, just a sec. Special needs teen is developmentally delayed, probably acts 10 or 12, against anything she is required to do. I calmly wait for her to stop fussing, homeschooled. Yeah, that would probably be coaching. Anything like special needs or any specialties, that would be one-on-one coaching with me. I can't give you any general advice, really. You told me to come to the live is why I copied, pasted. Oh, okay. Yeah, these lives are where I answer parenting questions. It's the only place I do because I just don't have time. People don't send me as many questions on email now because they know I can't answer them. Yeah. Just don't have time. That's why I do these lives. This is where I do all the free Q&As. Best way to handle 9-year-old threatening to run away when disciplined. Well, I don't know how you're disciplining, so maybe you're doing it wrong. Check out the behavior board. Are you getting disciplined too when you do something wrong? If you're accountable too, they're less likely to do stuff like that. So check out the behavior board. It's completely free. It's up above in the link. Do you recommend your parent coaching if me and my husband cannot come to an agreement on parenting style? He's old-fashioned, so he would be the authority style. And I believe in talking to your child, so you'd be the pleaser style. They could not be more opposite. We are completely different. That wouldn't be coaching. Just check out the behavior board. You can start there. It's completely free. If you want to go to the next level, that would be the boot camp course. That's all about you. But you got to agree. If you're going to spend the money on that course, just agree to go through with it. And you can pick a leader. Like you can say, okay, I'm going to be doing the whole course, but you defer to me. Or the other parent, if they don't even want to be involved, you can just leave them off the behavior board and you can just do it on your own. And see, you know what often happens in coaching? That one parent will hire me and the other one doesn't want anything to do with it because they've been fighting about parenting. So they're just like, they're at war, right? So they say, well, look, I've hired this coach. And then sometimes what will happen, it's quite often actually, the other parent will hire me on the side because they see the relationship that new leader is getting with their kids and they want some of that, but they're too proud to admit it. So I always get them to admit it eventually though. Good. Anyway, so yeah. This is about bonding with your kids. It's not about being a dictator or an authority. It's about bonding with your kids, showing them respect. You give respect to get it. You can't expect your kids to respect you if you don't respect them. You've got to give respect to get it. It's not about how they feel about you. It's about how you make them feel about themselves. You want your children to have high self-esteem, confidence. You want them to like themselves. That's the whole key with this leadership stuff. Kids who are acting out tend to not like themselves. They tend to have very low self-esteem. So we want to increase that by encouraging them to make good choices. That's all about. You never tell kids what to do. You say, here's the rule. If you break the rule, there's a consequence. You never try and stop them from doing something bad. Let them do it. Let them do it. And then there's a consequence, right? I have to move over to Instagram now because I don't want to be late. So I'm on YouTube the whole time when I'm doing these lives, but then I hop from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. So if you want to follow me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting Everywhere. And just a little warning, I don't get them as often because I'm telling people about this, but I sometimes get emails from people who have been scammed out of money by people pretending to be me. So the link above is me. Like they'll use my videos, my name, all my information. They'll use all that stuff. And then they're scamming people out of money. So I can't control that. They're probably in Africa somewhere, evidently, all these scam places. They run businesses doing this, right? I can't fly over to Africa and stop that. So just make sure that you're clicking on that link above. If you want to check out my courses, my whatever, check out the link above. That is me. Don't just go Googling and not sure if that's me or not, because evidently there's a bunch of people out there. And then they switch. They switch a cat. I'm like, I don't know. That's what I've been told anyway. But that's not my job. I'm not a police, internet scamming. That's not I don't know anything about it. Okay, approximately how much time a week do I need to go through the boot camp each? Everyone thinks it's going to be so difficult. We start with 1 rule per week. That's all we do, 1 rule per week. Then the next week we have 2. Week 3 we have 3. So you start slow and you're only focused on those rules. The rest of the stuff, whatever, I don't care what happens. But yeah, it's just, I don't know how much time it's going to take. Depends on what the rule is. If your kids are hitting 20 times a day, it's going to take a long time. If they're only hitting once every couple of days, it might not be that hard. So you pick something that you can manage, okay? You usually start small. Start with something easier and then build your way up. Okay, I got to go over to Instagram now. If you want to follow me over there, you can. If not, check out the link above. You can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old, or you can look into coaching. Anyway, I'll see you over on Instagram. Bye now. Okay, so YouTube. What resources do you recommend for working on and bettering leadership skills? I'm the only one that teaches this because I invented this. This is my own stuff. So you can check out my bootcamp course and you can check out the free behavior board. It's all in the description on YouTube or it's in the link above here in Instagram. So yeah, just check that out. And I've got hundreds and hundreds of videos. So, okay. Welcome to, everyone's here already. Welcome to my live. Unfortunately, I don't do lives every day anymore. I've tried, I just don't have time. I work 7 days a week right now anyway. So I just don't have time to throw in lives. But I'm still doing my 2 lives for sure per week, and I might throw in the odd one when I've got some free time. Okay. Okay. My boy, this is a good question, as from Jackie Miller. My boys are best friends, 4 and 3. They hit and scream in fun, but when the other is not having fun, I don't know how to let them have fun and without. Okay, so they get carried away. So that's a problem with consistency. So if they're allowed to hit sometimes but not others, they don't understand that. So it's not really fair. Say there is no hitting, period. There's no hitting, period. So every time they hit, they have a consequence. So you can't say you can hit sometimes, but when the other kid isn't having fun, you have to stop. That's an inconsistency, right? So yeah, it's about consistency. The rule is no hitting. It's like when people wrestle with their kids. We never did it. We never roughhoused with our kids. And I didn't want to because it sort of teaches that it makes it more comfortable for them to get rough. So when they're out in the world, they might potentially get rough with other kids, right? So, but a lot of my clients, they wrestle with their kids because that's just like, I get a lot of cowboys in that from down south, and they love wrestling with their kids. I'm not going to take that away from them. So they love doing it, but it can also, kids don't always know when to stop. So if it's okay to wrestle and hit sometimes, and then not others, it's a mixed message. And they usually know that they're doing it wrong, but it's kind of a mixed message. So it's okay to hit and wrestle sometimes, but you can't wrestle the teacher at school. Do you know what I mean? Like, so yeah. So I would say just no hitting, period. How to deal with 4-year-old not listening. Okay, so they don't listen to me. That's the tell. It means they don't respect you. So work on your leadership skills. Put down, you can't do what I tell you. That's too broad of a statement. So what you're doing is when you put like a rule like that, do what you're told. That's like saying you respect me. You got to earn that respect. You got to work for it. People just expect it to happen. That's ludicrous. You got to earn that. So you do it by starting with the behavior board, or you can go into the bootcamp course if you want the next level up. And it teaches you how to set down rules and consequences for everybody. The rule is you have to put your shoes away when you come in the house. If you don't, there's a consequence. That's how you do it. So like I never really told my kids what to do. They just sort of understood what to do. And if they chose not to do it, then there's a consequence. I never said, don't forget to do that. Like that's nagging. And then it's also taking away from their responsibility. They were good kids. They knew how to be responsible. They knew how to take responsibility for their chores or whatever. So I never interfered in that. But if they weren't done, I'd say, oh, well, you forgot that. So now you can make my bed and your bed tomorrow. Oh, sorry, Mom. Okay. It's like no big deal. Signs to start potty training. 2-year-old is now pulling at diaper and screaming during change. Could be a sign. You might want to check out my potty party course. I started that at 2.5 with my kids. They might be ready for that. I don't know. You can decide, and you don't really know until you start training. But yeah, I trained my kids at 2.5. I could have trained my daughter much younger. I just chose to wait because I only wanted potty training to go on for a day or two. And that was it. No night pull-ups, no night diapers, nothing. It was just my son was 1 day he was trained, my daughter was 2 days. And yeah, I wanted to get it over and done with. So the younger they are, the longer it takes to train them usually. So, but yeah, check out the potty party course. It's in the link above. It's one of my, I think that one and my tantrum course, they're the two most popular courses I have for toddlers. Do you provide training for therapists working with families? I love your work. Yeah, I get asked this kind of stuff a lot. A lot of my clients are teachers, principals, child psychologists, daycare workers, etc. I don't know anything about those jobs. Like they struggle with parenting just as much as other people because the stuff doesn't transfer over. So no, for me, it would be very irresponsible of me to teach therapists anything because I don't know anything about your job. So yeah, parenting, I teach home-based personal parenting with kids. That's all I know. That's all I teach. Yeah, because that's all I know. Like I don't talk to schools or teachers anymore. I do, but only about their own kids. I used to go to schools and do public speaking and that. And then I realized, there's teachers sitting there that are taking notes. And I thought a lot of what I teach is for home and a lot of it can't be transferred over and vice versa. A lot of stuff that works at school can't be transferred over. So I made a decision years ago not to do that. I keep all my advice is just parent-child advice. Oh, okay. Very good. From Houston, Texas. God, I got to get to Texas one day. I want to hit Houston, especially Austin. I've heard I might like Austin. I don't know. Anyway, got to get down there. I've only been to, I think, what's the other big city? Not Houston, but the other one, Dallas. I think I had a layover there once. It's just the airport. Anyway, love the idea of Texas. I got to get there. Okay. Love you and your content. Thank you. I have 15-month-old twins. Both do the tantrum thing, throw themselves down, but I am not fertilizing. And good for you. It's hard work, isn't it? And the sooner they learn this, the better. Kids only do what works past a certain age. That age is usually 3 to 3.5, around there. Not 3.5 usually. They only do what works. But but even before that, you can start to minimize tantrums. So they're not going to stop having tantrums till they're usually about 3.5, 3 to 3.5 usually. But you can minimize the duration, the intensity, and frequency by completely ignoring tantrums. So you're not fertilizing it. Any attention is fertilizer. That makes it grow, right? So that's what you're referring to. Good for you. You're doing the work. I only give advice. You're the ones who do the work to apply it. So whenever coaches say, "Oh, thank you," when I'm coaching, my clients will say, "Thank you, you've helped us." I say, "Yeah, I just gave you the advice. You're the ones doing the work." So good for you. Pat yourselves on the back. What's the best sibling age gap? I don't know. I don't think there is one. I've dealt with so many families when they're close in age, others they're far apart in age. They're all doing really well or killing each other. I really have not seen a consistent where I could say this is the great age. My kids were 5 years apart, but I had back surgery and a miscarriage in between them. So they would have been probably 2 years apart. But I personally love the 5 years because my son started grade 1 and then my daughter was born. So I had all that time with him, the 5 years, just the two of us. Well, dad too, but during the day it was just my son and I because my husband worked. And then he went to school. Then I had all that time with my daughter. So I loved it. I felt like I got to stretch parenting out because I really would have loved 4 kids. My body just wasn't meant for it. So I would have loved more kids, but it worked out really well because we just had 2, but it was stretched out. So yeah, if I'd only had them 2 years apart, it would have just ended so much quicker and it would have been more chaotic. Whereas this way, I just got to relax and enjoy one, then I got to relax and enjoy the other. So for me, I loved it. Oh my God. What is such a good question? I got to find it again. It just flipped forward. Oh, shoot. Oh, it was such a good question. Oh, sugar. I can't. I just started reading it and I thought, oh, I love that question. And I lost it. If you could ask it again, it was, what are some of the parents doing and it was like a common thread. What are parents doing? And I can't remember exactly how you worded it. Oh, I'm looking for it now. Oh, here we go. What's something parents say that they think is helping their child, but is actually hurting them? Oh God, I could go on. Oh I just went blank because I got so many things I could say. Say, you know better than that. That's one. Another one is use your words. They're both very patronizing and insulting. Extremely patronizing and insulting. Yeah, those are two that come to mind. Just, yeah, you know better than that. Or use your words. Oh, I hate that. You know better than that. In other words, you're such an idiot for doing it because you know better. And use your words because the way you communicate is crap. It's just so patronizing. What would you say instead of use your words? Nothing. They are communicating. What do you mean? What do you say instead of that? They are communicating. If they're screaming, kicking, that is their communication. They are very good communicators. You're just not very good at reading it. Learn how to read their communication. You enter their world. Don't expect them to find their inner adult. All this mini therapy session garbage drives me freaking insane. Use your words. Let's discuss all your big feelings and big emotions. And oh, geez. Kids don't need therapy sessions. That's ridiculous. Not that I have an opinion on it. I remember, I'm in my 60s now, and I can remember about 40 years ago seeing the Please Your Parents style come in. It came flying in because it's all just philosophy and fluff. There's nothing that works in there. And it came in and it started with participation awards. Woo, stupidest thing I ever heard of. I was like, are you joking? I couldn't believe it. You get an award just for you know what? I was at the supermarket yesterday. No one gave me an award for walking in. I was participating in supermarket shopping. No one gave me an award. Talk about raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. How stupid is that? That was 40 years ago. I thought this will never take off. It took off because it's feeding the mom's needs. You're talking about it's feeding what the mom needs. It's not the child's needs at all. It's the opposite. And that was, and I remember, and what I was saying, oh my God, people didn't want to hear it. People didn't, but you have to validate all their feelings. You do not need to validate all their feelings. They're screaming, kicking on the floor. You do not need to validate that. They will survive. They'll do a lot better if you don't validate that. But I remember when that came in, holy moly. I remember thinking, what a disaster. We're in for trouble. Now I can see it's flipping. It's changing because it wasn't working. And I remember saying, boy, the drug problem and mental health, it's going to just skyrocket because of that parenting style. Look where we are. I wish I was wrong. Self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. Yeah, it's like, you didn't validate my feelings. I'm just the bus driver, lady. Like, come on. How are you setting them up for life? You're not. It's the same parents who go into school telling the teacher all the special attention they want their child to get. It's like that. It's that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's the parents who maybe have a bully that don't want to admit to it. They blame everybody else. It's always everybody else's fault. Everything, it's just they're not accountable for anything. Your children are raised to think everyone should just roll out the red carpet for them and discuss all their feelings instead of teaching them right from wrong. If you make a mistake, there's nothing wrong with making a mistake. We all do it, but you got to be accountable for it. You got to make amends. There's got to be a consequence. That's how we all learn. We all learn through consequences. You know, if you don't pay your rent, you get kicked out. If you don't clean your toilet, you know, like it's all consequences. So you got to teach that to your children from a very young age. That's why my kids were never whiners or complainers. They never expected people to roll out the red carpet. But I made sure our home life was fabulous. Like we all laughed all the time. We had a great time. So they always had that safe haven to come home to. And we just had a blast. But when they went out in the world, I never tried to protect them from stuff, except safety, obviously. But if they got a bad teacher, I'd say, good. That'll be a good lesson for you because you're going to get a bad boss one day too. You got to learn how to deal with the adversities in life. I never went in to save the day. It was very rare. Only once I went into school with my son. I said to him, so a teacher, he was, by this time he would have been grade 9. And he said, you know, Mom, he says, this teacher is down marking me. And because he was in a special class, like, and so the teacher, her son was also in that class. And her son was the top of the class. Well, my son ended up being the top of the class. I found this out later on. That's why she was down marking my son. And I said, okay, well, that's just life, right? Do you want me to deal with it? And he goes, yeah, can you? I didn't quite believe she was doing that, but I knew she was guilty when and I never went in to save the day. And he was in grade 9. He went with me. And she knew me because I was at the school dealing with the difficult kids. I was a teen mentor. And so she knew who I was. And she saw me coming, and she saw me with her son. You should have seen the look on her face. I could have got her fired. I had proof that she'd been downgrading my son so that her son stayed at the top of that class. And that was the only time I went in. And I never even said anything to her. I just said, oh, I just wanted to meet you. But the way I looked at her, she knew. She knew I knew what she was doing. She could have lost her job. And I didn't tell on her, but I felt like it. A horrible person, eh? But that was the only time I went in to save the day, right? We had a great home life. What happens when an adult child suddenly thinks it wasn't? Depression? Well, I don't know. They might have mental health issues anyway. There's a lot of pressure out there in the world, and a lot of stuff happens online and not in person. And I think that's a big part of it. They don't learn how to connect with people, and they don't really see. I think they also tend to look at all the good stuff that's happening online. They can also be talked into depression by all these people talking about their mental health. I just saw something earlier. This woman was showing, that's so stupid. To me, it was stupid anyway, all this woke culture stuff. Oh, it's all about this victim mentality. And this woman I was just watching a home tour on YouTube. And then she goes, oh, and I've got this because I really need to nurture my mental health. And I had to turn it off right away. Please her parent style, that's how she was raised. I really have to nurture my mental health. She was like a 40-year-old woman. But the way she said it was so, I can't stand that stuff. Okay, I have lost being seen as a leader from kids and they are no longer following any instructions. Example, going to bed, getting changed. Oops. She is almost 3, so I understand she's still very young. Yeah, at 3 years old, there's a fork in the road. If you're a leader and they trust you and you're very consistent and you follow through and you say something, they tend to get really easy at 3. It's a fork in the road. At 3, they can stop and think. And at 3 years old, they go, wait a minute, you don't know what you're doing. I'm going to get crazy. Or they go, wait a minute, you know what you're doing. I'm just going to not bother fighting you. And they just get really easy and happy and all that. But you see that fork in the road, they stop and think. So it's sort of a tell. Have you been leading your toddler effectively? They don't necessarily follow yet. But at 3, that's when they do. That's when things get really easy. If you're kind of a leader and doing, following through with stuff. But if not, they go the other way. Or some kids are just basically not ever going to fight anyway. They just don't have that in them. But yeah. So I got to go turn my heat down. I'm cooking here. Okay. Oh, boy, oh, boy. What actions to take or what to say when a 22-month-old runs off when in the front yard? Oh, if they're runners, put them on a leash. If they're not in a fenced area, I would put them on a leash if they're runners. That's a life and death safety thing, right? So put a harness on them. As soon as they run, you're bigger, you can catch them, run out and say, no running away from me. Clip them in and leave them clipped in for the rest of that time you're outside. Are they going to have a fit? Oh, you bet they are. But that's their lesson. Behind every fit, scene, lesson, and meltdown behind every tantrum, fit, meltdown, and scene is a lesson. Don't avoid those. You have to let them go through that. You have to let them process not getting your own way. You have to let them process not running away from you and getting hit by a car, right? So yeah, everyone's trying to avoid the scene. That's why you're not leaders. You're trying to avoid the scene. Let's appease them, give them whatever they want. Why aren't they listening to me? Because you're not a leader, because you're afraid of them. That's why. If a kid like that 8-year-old kid, I always talk about this one, that 8-year-old kid, he didn't know me. And he didn't know what he was up against. I was supposed to be working with him. And when I sat down with him, I just met him. And then he said to me, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to have a fit. And he said it with that filthy face. And I said to him, bring it on. And he never did. He thought, oh, she knows what she's doing. I have no fear of that. I'm like, come on, bring it on. Good luck with that. That's what I was thinking. I know how to deal with you. So yeah, it's that confidence level. They just don't have fit scenes, tantrums, and meltdowns once they know that you know what to do. Okay? They just don't. Once you're a leader, all that stuff stops. So it's all about you, basically. It's not about your kids. It's about you. I teach parenting. I don't teach kidding or teenagering. How do you manage time entering your kids' world and playing, but also chores? Okay, so I always say you got to enter their world to connect with them, but then you time it. Say, look, I'm going to be playing for 30 minutes. When that alarm goes, I got to get up and do my chores. So you set the expectation ahead of time. So it's almost like they learn, beep, okay, time's up. They'll just eventually learn. Not the first time, not the first 20th time probably. But you set a time. Say, okay, I can play for 10 minutes or whatever it is. As soon as that alarm goes, okay, I got to go. And then go. Don't keep sitting there. It's okay. All that wimpy stuff. They're not going to respect you. And they'll walk all over you if you do that. My struggles with teenagers, not little ones. Well, that's my specialty is teenagers. So I deal with about half my clients right now, teenagers. I started my business doing teen crisis work. And then I realized I want to prevent this. So I don't lead with that anymore, but that is teenagers are my favorite age. So absolutely. And usually parents, when they hire me, it's all coaching with teenagers. When they hire me, I always say, you're going to hate me the first 2 weeks because it's all going to be me figuring out what's going on and your strengths and weaknesses. It's all about you. And the first week or two, we're not going to get anything done that you want to get done, but we got to work the system and figure out what's going on. And God, it's my favorite thing because when things start to go well with teenagers, oh my God, that's so rewarding. So rewarding. Where do you live? I'm in Vancouver, Canada. My kids were born and raised in Brisbane, Australia. But we're all here now. We moved over. We just moved back because my mother was in her 80s and she was not well. I'm the only daughter. It's just different with daughters and moms, right? So I wanted to be with my mom. So we moved back after I was there for about 20 years. And then my mom passed. She died in my arms. She was 93 years old and she died in my arms. Death is really awful. She was 93, so it's not like, oh my God, how tragic. I mean, she was 93. She lived a good long life. But yeah, I guess if you could say this, it sounds kind of weird, but it was beautiful. It was horribly sad, but I mean, it was a beautiful goodbye. So I just felt like what a gift I was there when it happened. And my mom, she was my idol. We were like best friends. And she always said, best decision I ever made was adopting you, because I'm adopted. And we just grew as adults, as an adult especially, we just grew so close. And when she was dying, we always used to joke around. She was very funny. We used to joke around and say, well, because every single day we said how much we loved each other, how much we meant to each other. And like my daughter and I do that too. So, and then we always joked around that on her deathbed, we'll have nothing left to say. She's dying in my arms and I was crying. You're right, Mom, I've got nothing to say. And I felt that she was doing the last, I don't want to get into details, but she was just in the last stage, right? And she couldn't see or hear, or couldn't see or feel, but she could hear. And she was gasping for air, and I could tell she was laughing. As she's dying, she laughed, dying. Like that was the last thing she did, was she laughed. Because I said, you're right, Mom, I've got nothing left to say. We've said it all. So yeah, isn't that beautiful? I know it sounds crazy, but it was beautiful. Okay. Ooh, I always get panicked that I'm going to be late because I go from Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. I'm okay. Sorry, I just had to scroll ahead. Okay. You're probably not going to like my answer, but I'm going to answer anyway. You've helped me realize that I talk too much and fuel the tantrums, right? However, I still struggle with feeling like by ignoring them, that I'm allowing them to think that's appropriate behavior. So ignoring. You're not ignoring your child. You're ignoring the scene. It's okay to ignore the scene. There's nothing wrong with that. You do not need to validate every single thing your child does. You need to ignore what you don't want to see again, like that scene. And it's not a huge emotional outburst. It is, but it's only an emotional outburst at not getting what they want. It's not an emotional outburst because they've been damaged or hurt or something like that. It's nothing like that. Just I didn't get my own way. Now I'm going to have a fit. You do not need to validate that. If you do, it's going to keep happening and happening and happening. So yeah. I've never heard anyone really complain about the fact that ignoring that tantrum, I guess if you had a tantrum, they might ignore you, but I've never heard of them using that silent treatment kind of thing against you after a tantrum. They're so nuts anyway that they're not thinking when they're doing that. As soon as they're done, you say, oh, you all done? You want to read a book? You ignore the crazy and reward the calm. What are the signs of perfectionism in an 8-year-old? There is really no such thing as perfectionism. It's a fear of not being perfect is what it is. No one's perfect. Perfectionism is a sign of insecurity. It's also a lot of sore losers are perfectionists. If I can't do it right, I'm not going to do it at all. Life is about, you never succeed in life until you're willing to go through some failures and tough times. Everything worth having is worth learning, and there's struggles in learning. So you want to teach your child, it's better to fail than if you never fail, you're not trying hard enough. You're not, life is about failures. Life is about going out of your comfort zone if you really want to get somewhere exciting and dynamic in life. We can all learn from that. I have lots of areas in my life I don't do that with. So, but yeah, the perfectionism is a sign of insecurity. It's a sign of if I'm not perfect, there's something wrong with me. I have a lot of confidence, so I have no problem saying, yeah, I suck at this. I'm horrible at that. I have no problem with that at all because I can always learn. You can always learn to get better, but you don't always have to be great at everything. Do you still accept coaching? You mean coaching for teenagers? Well, I work with parents of teenagers. About half my clients right now have teenagers. Yeah. I do specialize in teen crisis work, but I don't lead with that. But if you want to know more about coaching, just look it up online. If you really want to move forward with coaching, send me an email. Tell me the ages of your kids and what you're dealing with. If I don't think it's anything big, I probably won't take you on. Unless I have a lot of time, a lot of spaces. Right now, I'm pretty busy. Or I might just send you to the. If you have 3 to 12-year-old, I always try and move people over to the boot camp course, because I just can't take everyone on right now with coaching. And I try and mix up the ages. Sometimes I'll say I can't take anyone on, but then I will. But it's because they have an age. I like to mix it all up. So, like, for example, if I have a really packed day, they're not all going to be teenage parents, like parents of teenagers, because they just take more brain power from me. I have to think more with teenage stuff. So I'll mix it up the ages. Perfectionism, sore losers are perfectionists. You never succeed in life if you aren't willing to fail. Exactly. Life is about going out of our comfort zone. Yeah, absolutely. Think about it. Think about it. I've met people who try and be perfect all the time. They're usually the most boring people I've ever met in my whole life. I like people who are laughing at themselves, throwing themselves out there. They're vulnerable. They're funny. They're self-deprecating humor. I love all that stuff. That's confidence. The perfectionist, well, I would never do that. That kind of personality. Ugh, God, no, thank you. So yeah, you do not want to guide your children into being perfectionists. They are really annoying. Oops. Okay, I'm going to be moving over to TikTok now. If you want to look at the link above, you can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can look into coaching. I can't take everyone on. I got a really packed schedule. I'm working 7 days a week, but I don't coach on Sundays. But I'm still working. I'm just doing other stuff. But yeah, I only coach 6 days a week. But even then, I can't always take everyone on. So you can look that up if you want. If not, check out the boot camp course. That's 3 to 12 years old. I've got I just finished a group coaching session for 6 weeks with people in there. It was just a one-off thing I did. All those videos are now in the course. You can see all these parents asking questions about the course. And that was a lot of fun, actually. I won't be doing that again. If I do anything like that, it'll be a little bit different, but I loved it. I loved seeing parents seeing each other. What was really funny is one mom was doing really well in week 2. And she came on, she goes, I get it. I'm a leader. The kids are starting to respect me. And my daughter works with me and she was watching it at the same time. She does all my marketing, social media videos, all that. She does all that stuff. So she's watching it and she's thinking, this is the difference. And my daughter's thinking, this is great. What a great ad for the course. This woman's going on and on about how great it is and how well she's doing. I wasn't watching her. I was watching all the other parents like this. They weren't flying like she was. It was just so funny, the different perspectives. But yeah, everyone's different. Plus, she might have just had easier kids, right? Some kids are more challenging. They have more feisty personalities. But it just struck me as funny when my daughter and I were talking about it later on. She goes, "Wasn't that great?" And I'm like, "Oh, I just felt so bad for all those other parents. How come we're not doing that well?" It was so cute. Anyway, that was a lot of fun. Anyway, I'm moving over to TikTok now. If you want to join me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting. If not, happy parenting. Come on. There we go. I've accidentally I'm talking to YouTube here. I've accidentally gone on that one before, and people say, "What are you talking about, hon?" Because it's just I call it my old lady fitness channel. Anyway. Yeah, kids, toddlers who make themselves throw up because they're mad, they're just going to do that. I mean, there's nothing, they'll outgrow it. They'll get sick of doing it. Or you just hold their hand if you can and stop them from doing it. But yeah, they're going to try all sorts of stuff. They generally only do what works after a certain age. So if that never works, you make sure they never get a reward for that. They never get what they want. Um, I had a friend whose little kid would do that. And he'd go like this. If he didn't get what he wanted, he'd go like this. And then she'd give it to him because he would have made himself sick. There's no way that I would have got a bucket instead of giving him what he wanted. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So if you're new here, welcome. If you're not new here, welcome back. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. If you look at the link above, you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my boot camp course, 3 to 12 years old, or you can look into coaching. Can't take everyone on these days because my schedule is pretty tight. But anyway, I used to do daily lives. I think I did this every day for about 2 years. Especially, I started here on TikTok doing lives. And I just don't have time anymore. So I'm doing these twice a week for sure. Sometimes I'll pop on still if I have time. The problem is I do so much coaching and that takes a lot out of my voice. So to do a live, it's hard on my voice. That's why. I love doing them, but I've just got to protect my voice. I'm like a singer, really. Got to protect my voice. Do you know I always wanted to be able to sing? Wouldn't that be amazing? Just be able to belt out a song. I can belt out a song, but dogs would be howling and children would be running in fear. Any idea how to get a 3-year-old to participate in a tumbling class? She wants to run around. Is that a big deal? Is she having fun? She's still participating, just not the way she should be. But yeah, she wants to run around. She'll eventually learn. There's something called social pressure. When other kids start to look at them weird and that, they start to get self-conscious. So if she's only 3 and she's new to tumbling and she just doesn't want to do it, she wants to run around. I wouldn't make a big deal out of it. I would try and encourage her to do it. Maybe she's running around because she's doesn't know how to tumble. Maybe at home you can get a little mat and maybe do some tumbling with her at home. Yeah. Okay. What would you suggest as a different consequence rather than a media blackout? I use media blackout as my just standard secondary consequence. There's always 2 consequences for the kids. The first one is a positive action. It's usually a chore. If they won't do that, then you resort to the negative deprivation. I usually say 24-hour media blackout because that's the most common one. But just take away one of their favorite things that they play with every single day. But you never take away anything loving or comforting. Like if they have a plushie that they sleep with, you would never take that away. So yeah, just take away something that they love, that they play with every single day for 24 hours. How to stay patient with my toddler. Well, that's up to you. I can't teach you how to stay patient. That's up to you. Yeah. People ask me that all the time. It's like if you go to a diet center, how do I stop myself from eating? Well, I'm telling you what to eat. I'm telling you what to do. So, but yeah, the emotions that's on you. You just got to overcome that. Yeah. I can't tell you how to change your reactions. Because what you're asking me is how do I change my toddler so that they don't trigger you? Yeah. Plus, when you get experience with kids, you just kind of go, yeah, whatever. Like it just doesn't bother you after a while. It's just because you're heightened because you're new at it, right? The reason why toddlers are actually not difficult, it's just that if you've never been there before, you tend to expect too much from them. You tend to not understand that they're just nuts. Here's my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Okay. Number 1, this is my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number one, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number two, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. That's part of managing your environment, which might help. Number three is you enter their world to connect with a toddler. You don't go to the nail salon with a toddler. You go to the park and roll down the hill with them. They start to look at you differently when you get good at this. Number four is stop with the mini therapy sessions when they're naughty. Toddlers do not listen to you. They're watching you, and they're all about action. So you use consistent corrective actions to have as a consequence for bad behavior. Okay, so number five is kind of similar. Pardon me. Number three and four are kind of similar. It's about entering their world on their level. Okay, so you bond with them in their level, and you also discipline them in their level. And number four, and their love language is play. It's not words. It's not praise. It's play. And number five is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and for the first year you were a potato laying on a mattress. Your expectations are here. They're here. Come on, just lower your expectations of toddlers. Whenever I'm working with families and they've got older kids we're usually working with, and they've also got toddlers, just so I can tell you this, I'll sometimes ask them, do you want to discuss the toddler? They just go, yeah, no, they're nuts. Like they all do that. Anyone who's already lived through the toddler years just go, oh no, they're nuts. Well, Jackie, have you got custody of your grandson? Because I don't give grandparenting advice unless I give people who have custody advice though. Like if they have parents, I only talk to parents. So, and by the way, all that stuff is coaching. That would be coaching. It's not something I can answer here. He's like on a live. I can't answer why a 15-year-old is failing school. I would have to investigate, assess the situation, and then decide how to move forward. And the results are very slow with teenagers. You've had 15 years to get where you are with teenagers. It's not going to take 15 minutes to correct stuff. It might take 15 weeks. But coaching can end and the work still continues on. Okay. Okay, someone said, someone on YouTube, any potty training tips, maybe something quick? No, I got nothing quick for you. I have a whole course on potty training. It's one of my mini courses, and it's a whole process. It's a whole system how you do it. It's all a party. It's a big party. They pee on the floor. Oh, mommy sometimes pees on the floor too. I'll clean that up. It's like that. It's all positive, but there's a system in place. I trained my son in 1 day, my daughter in 2 days. No pull-ups, no night diapers, nothing. I'll tell you a funny story. My son had just been potty trained. I trained them at 2.5. I didn't want to drag it out, so I waited till they were 2.5, right? That's when they're really able to be trained usually. So anyway, my son had just been potty trained, and I thought I did everything right. I didn't give him anything to drink just before we went grocery shopping, all that stuff. He'd already pooped in the morning. Sure enough, we get to the checkout. I have to go poo. And oh my God, I'm like, oh no. And then I said, okay, sweetie, I'll just get these groceries. And he goes, and I have to go poo now. And I'm like, oh no. Now, in Australia, where I raised my kids, supermarkets are inside malls. Like they're not freestanding like they are here in North America. They're literally just another store in a mall. So the bathroom was at the other end of the mall. And I had to run with this kid. And the lady said, just run. Oh, there was other mothers around. We'll pack your groceries for you. Just run. So I ran with him to the bathroom, and I hate public toilets. I didn't even have time to put paper down or anything. So I held him over the toilet, and he pooped over the. I just made it. But I don't think I've ever run so fast in my life. Yep, kids are messy. Okay, I'm going to read out. These are my top 3 leadership qualities. So I teach leadership parenting. The old-fashioned authority style, it's not a bad way to parent, but they rebel in the teen years. The pleaser parent style, it's a horrible way to parent. They rebel all the time. You're raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. Total disaster. That's the new trend right now is pleaser parent style. Total disaster. I teach leadership parenting. You're guiding them into making good choices. You want them to understand that life's up to them. You do something good, life. I always told my kids, if you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of that because I'm your mom and that's my job. So I never tried to intervene and stop them from doing anything bad. I let them do it. And then I came in, well, that was bad. Here's the consequence. So they just learned. They learned they were in charge of their own lives. That's what leadership, and they don't rebel in the teen years. My son was 15 and he says, I could never rebel. You're too reasonable and easy to talk to. I didn't know whether to apologize or celebrate. So I think I left the room and celebrated. Anyway, okay. So that's what leadership is to me. Leadership is all about guiding them into making good choices. You want them to be self-disciplining. I never told my kids what to do. They understood what to do and they did it, right? If not, they knew mom would come in, hey, that wasn't very good. Here's a consequence. Oh, sorry, mom. Okay. That's how easy it was, okay? These are my top 3 leadership qualities. Number 1, calm during the storms. So when you're disciplining, they're acting out, you stay completely calm and you just deal with it. You say, okay, here's a consequence. You made a bad choice. Here's a consequence. Then number 2 is you be crazy, like it's all business, right? When you're disciplining. Number 2 is you be crazy during the rainbows. The rainbows are the fun times. You can be goofy and crazy and laughing and giggling and I was a very goofy mother. So I still am the goofy one in the family. So you can be crazy during the rainbows, but when you're disciplining, you're calm, okay? Number 3 is you become a great listener. You listen to understand and show empathy from a very young age, especially with teenagers. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with. They will shut you out. If you want your teenagers to talk to you, become a really good listener. And then just shut up. You listen to understand and show empathy, then stop talking. Hard to do. It works. I've got clients right now going through that. You're right, it works. Okay, I love your parenting style. Would you consider it gentle parenting? No, not at all. No. I've never looked at gentle parenting, but I know enough about it to know that's not me at all. So, but I've never looked at it. I don't discuss other parenting styles other than the big umbrella. The old-fashioned authority style, that's the dictator, my way or the highway. You listen to me because I'm your parent. They do rebel in the teen years, but they come out the other end just fine usually. The new style, please your parent. That's the one where it's all rolling out the red carpet, discussing all their big feelings, big emotions. You're raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. It's a total disaster. They never respect you. They treat you like crap. They wipe their feet all over you. They don't respect themselves. They're just victims. That's that. A typical example of that was, you didn't validate my feelings. So I'm just the bus driver lady. That's what you're raising, this self-entitled, they're victims. Okay. Is there a place I can get this list? No, I just talk about it. I do have, my daughter does all my stuff behind the scenes. My website, I just found this the other day. I evidently have a blog on there. She's put sort of my pillar content on there, like the big stuff, like 5 tips. I think she's put so look on my website, bratbusters.com. Be very careful when you type that in. There's a whole bunch of people out there pretending to be me and they're stealing money off people. My website is in the link above and it's bratbusters.com. It's not .ca, it's not .net, it's .com. And it's Bratbusters. So nothing I can do about the thieves and the scams out there. I would have to fly to Nigeria evidently and catch them in action. Okay. In a divorced family, it's difficult. Well, we were divorced and my kids did just fine because we never fought. We always got along. They don't care if you're together. They only care that you get along. I always say, love your kids more than you hate each other. So yeah, they don't care if you're divorced. I remember once this principal, he wouldn't be watching me, I'm sure. But anyway, he said something really stupid to me. He didn't know we were divorced because he saw us together at school, not right? And we probably got along better than some married couples. So, but we, just wasn't good in marriage. But anyway, but he said something really stupid to me one day. And I found that I was very offended by this, not from my perspective, but he was insulting all other moms who were struggling as a single mom. And he said to me, he says, kids like yours are such a joy. With so many broken homes out here, I can always tell when a kid comes from a broken home. He didn't know how stupid he was. My kids were from a broken home. I took offense to that because I thought he's insulting all those other broken homes. We're not broken, okay? Lots of families that are together, there's abuse in the family. Being divorced doesn't make the kids broke. It doesn't break the kids. It's you. It's how you get along. You stay together as a parenting, like you're always a parenting united front. Okay, they don't care if you're together. They could care less. We still turned up everywhere together, like as parents. Yeah, we still, we're grandparents together now. I mean, you're stuck with that person for the rest of your life. I'm very lucky. I never see him as my ex. I always instantly, he was my father, the father of my kids. That's how I always viewed him. And I'm sure he did the same. So, I wasn't the father of his kids, but I was his mother of his kids. So, yeah, they don't care. Coming from a broken home isn't the problem. Lots of parents who are still together are more broken than we were. So yeah, just get along. Don't ever fight in front of your kids or anything. It scares them. Okay. Should I wait until my toddler listens to me to move to the next task or just take action? I have no idea what you're talking about. I have no idea what you mean by that. Sorry, maybe you could rephrase that. My 3-year-old has started hitting us and throwing things when upset. Should I ignore the behavior? If they're throwing things during yeah, while they're doing it, you physically restrain a child when they get physical. So if they're hurting themselves, hurting someone else, or damaging property, you physically restrain them while they're doing it. You say no and you hold them and take the toy away or whatever. But you still don't talk to them. You still look when you're holding them, you're not looking at them. Okay. But then you can let go. If they start doing it again, you just hold them again. So you have to physically restrain them when they're getting violent. But other than that, yeah. So you ignore them, but you don't ignore them physically. You prevent them from getting violent. But you don't do that with an older kid unless they're hurting themselves or someone else. But you don't do that if they're damaging property. If they're bigger than you, like I had this really tiny mom once, and she was like very petite little mom, and she had a teenage boy, and she goes, "So should I physically restrain my teenage boy?" And I go, "Good luck with that. He'd pick you up and throw you across the room." So, yeah, no, you can't always do that. How do you get your toddler to pick up their toys when they make a big mess? You don't. That's kind of your job. If they're a toddler, that's your job. You can say, "Oh, let's get this done, then we'll go to the park. Let's pick up toys. I can beat you." But yeah, if they're under the age of 3, you can't expect a toddler to pick up their toys. But what you can do, make your life easier and do a toy rotation system so they don't have very many toys out. So my kids were really good at that because they knew we weren't going out until their toys were put away. So I'd say, "Okay, let's clean up. Then we're going to go to the park." I always used it that way, like incentive. "Okay, we're going to go to the park." As soon as you put your toys away, they run around putting their toys away. But because I'm a very organized minimalist, they didn't have many toys to put away. They had maybe 5 toys to put on an open bookshelf. That was it. So yeah, if you have a chaotic household, I wouldn't want to clean up. I love cleaning, but chaos, ugh, can't stand it. A lot of parents expect their kids to keep the room. "Oh, you should see their room. It's just a total mess." How old are they? 2? Well, that's your job to keep their room clean. You can ask them to contribute, in a fun way, like, "Hey, we're going to go to the park. Put your toys away." Yeah. How often to rotate? I only did it once every 2 or 3 months with my kids because we lived in Australia. We were outdoors a lot, but generally no more than once a week. So you say, "Put your toys away and we'll get new toys out." And you do it. If they're prone to tantrums and they're going to try and grab everything, you just do it. Pull out stuff they'd like. What's interesting is that especially because my kids, I didn't let them have a lot of toys. I'm more minimalist. And so when they would pull out something, it would be later and they'd play with it differently because they were older. So it wasn't, they knew the toy, they'd seen it before, but they were just that much more developed. So if they haven't seen it in, let's say, 6 months when the rotation kicks in, right? They haven't seen something in 6 months, they're going to use it quite differently. It was quite interesting to watch. So yeah, I was very organized with all that stuff. They learn how to clean from us. Yes and no. I was a compulsive cleaner. I still am. I love cleaning, but I never expected my kids to clean. But I expected them to never leave a mess. There's a difference because I didn't want them cleaning because no one's going to do the same job I am. But I always told my husband and my kids, "I'll never ask you to clean, except after themselves, like dishes and that. But I'll never ask you to scrub a floor or anything like that because I love doing it." So, but I'd say, "But never leave anything I have to pick up and clean under." And they never did because I said, "If you do, you'll be cleaning." And they never did. So they were very good at lifting their feet too on the couch. My kids said they don't even remember their feet ever touching the ground when they were on the couch. Feet up, because I was always vacuuming underneath. Yeah, no, you can go right ahead and leave a mess, then you can clean up the floor. It's funny, they never did. Do we ignore tantrums? Yes, you do. A tantrum is an emotional outburst of not getting what they want, when they want, and how they want it. You do not need to give that any attention at all. Attention is tantrum food. You're fertilizing it. Completely ignore a tantrum. But you want to look like you're ignoring it. You look like you're waiting for a bus, filing your nails, just standing there. As soon as they're done, "Oh, you all done? You want to read a book?" You ignore the crazy and reward the calm. As soon as they're done, "Oh, you want to read a book?" Never discuss a tantrum before, during, or after. There is no point whatsoever. Some of my clients are child psychologists. They'll argue 2 things every time with me. One of them is, "Well, you should discuss their feelings around a tantrum." And I always say, "Why?" They've never once come up with anything good. Why? You don't need to validate that. That's ridiculous. I would never validate that, ever. The other one they argue is praise gets good behavior. You should praise your children. It's okay. Doesn't get good behavior, though. Lots of parents praise their kids. Does that get good behavior? No, consequences get good behavior. Bonding with your kids. Their love language is not praise, it's play. Play with your kids. You're more likely to get good behavior out of kids you play with than ones you praise. You look at a 5-year-old, let's say you got a 5-year-old little boy, and you say to him, you're wonderful, you're smart, you can do anything, you're so special. Okay, I'm going to go do the dishes now. He's like this. What did that do for him? He might act out to get your attention. Instead, you say, hey, what are you doing? Can I play too? Look at his face. Look at the difference. His love language is play. Actually, I'm not big on compliments. They don't do anything for me. But if someone enjoys my company and spends time with me, that's what I like. Like praise to me is kind of like, I hate charm. You know, when someone says, oh, he's so charming, I'm like, oh God, red flag, red flag. What are they hiding behind? Charm is just something they put up front to hide behind. I don't like charm. It's a false, it's like, it's just there to hide stuff behind. What's behind that? Dang it, you're right. Right about what? You mean I'm right about something? Woo. And I'm going to stress too is that my personality with kids, I'm a very good leader with children. But in my personal life, I just want to say anyone can be a leader. The reason is, in my personal life, I'm a follower. I don't want to know where we're going, what time to be there, what to wear, what to eat. You plan all that. I hate planning. So I want someone else to tell me where we're going, what we're doing. And if I have a friend who's like me, we don't like to make decisions or plan anything. We'll just stand on the street corner drooling together because we don't know what to do. So I'm very much a follower in my personal life. So I've got a strong personality. Like I'm not a pushover at all, but I'm not a leader. I'm not bossy or anything like that. It's just not my personality. Probably more when I was younger, but not at all now. Age is a truth serum. You sort of become the real you. And, I'm 63. I think I'm kind of there now. But yeah, children need a leader. That's why you do it with children. And even then, it's more about connecting with them. Leadership is not about being bossy with children. It's about bringing out the best in them. I know how to bring out the best in kids. And that's what it's all about. You want them to like themselves when they're in your presence. When they're with you and they feel good about themselves, don't they kind of want to please you? That's what this is all about. Have you ever been with someone that makes you feel good about yourself? Don't you want to please that person? That's what this is all about. You make them feel good about themselves, not bad about the bad decisions. Make them feel good about who they are. You separate the bad behavior from the person. So don't make the bad behavior their identity. The more you talk about their bad behavior, the more it becomes part of their identity. You deal with bad behavior, then you focus on the good kid. What do your kids do now? I don't talk about my adult kids as a rule because they don't choose to be on here, and I protect their privacy. But I'll just generally say my daughter works with me. She does all my marketing. She's in my business with me. She does all my marketing, my social media, my video, all my newsletters. That's all her. I don't do any of that. And my son, he has his own stuff, and she's 29. He's 34, and he has a little girl now, a little 4-month-old baby. That's about all I'll say. I'm very lucky. I've got very good kids. I told this funny story about my granddaughter, though. God, I work so much. I haven't had a chance to see her lately because it's a 40-minute drive away. So anyway, she's 4 months old now. And I was over there a couple months ago. I've seen her since, but when she was just fussy this day. So it was just the mom and I. And I said to the mom, go do whatever you want. I'll just hold her, And she was fussing. She was tired, but she didn't want to sleep. She doesn't like sleep. I guess she doesn't want to miss anything during the day. She likes to be walked. Now, I was walking her, and then she was good. She stopped crying. And as soon as I stopped, of course, she'd start crying again, right? So I thought, and I was about an hour in, I'm getting all cramped up and, walking around with her. So I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll stand still. But what did I do? And I started stomping in one spot so I didn't have to move around all the time. The second I did that, she started crying. She just like that. And I thought, whoa, she's outsmarting me already. I'm 63. She's 2 months old. Well, 4 months old now. But yeah, it just struck me as funny. Can't fool her. She's adorable. Okay, actually, I have to get going now. If you want to look at the link above, you can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses. You can check out my boot camp course, which is 3 to 12 years old. It's all about you and your leadership. That is the height of your leadership is 3 to 12 years old. Under 3, they're crazy. 13 and above, they become more their own leaders. You want to be there along the way, but they're more their own leaders. But 3 and 12-year-old, you're at the height of your leadership power. That's when they want to please you in that 3 to 12 years old. All their behavior is a direct result of your parenting. So that's why that course is 3 to 12. Very different ages. I put a whole bunch of different examples and stuff in there for those different ages. But your parenting is very similar with a 3-year-old and a 12-year-old. It's very similar because you're at the height of your leadership. Anyway, and then coaching. I have a very full schedule these days. But I do like to mix up the age groups. So you never know when I'm going to take on a new client, just depending on the age. I have gaps I like to fill in with ages. I do specialize in teenagers, but I also deal with parents of toddlers. So anyway, okay, thanks so much for joining me. And I'll be back again on Thursday. It's in the link above. You'll see that. Okay, thank you. Bye now.